the last warrior who faced the crown. There was a time when kings were seen as gods upon the earth. Their crowns shone like the sun, but cast long shadows over those who lived under their rule. Amid this age of iron and blood, a man emerged who dared the unthinkable, to defy the absolute power of the monarchy. He had no castles, no immense armies, but he had something the throne feared: courage, and the outcry of a people weary of oppression. This is the story of the last warrior who faced the crown, a tale of honor and tragedy, of glory and destruction. And his battle was not only physical, but also spiritual, a war between hope and despair. Each gesture, each decision, became a symbol of resistance against the impossible. It was not merely sword against steel, but the flame of a heart against the weight of an empire. The setting was medieval England, where the monarchy controlled every piece of land, every harvest, and even the people's faith. Nobles hoarded privileges, while peasants barely survived on the edge of starvation. The church reinforced the idea that obedience to the king was a sacred duty, and any rebellion against the crown was also a challenge against God. But behind the golden facade of royal order, there was a people crushed by taxes, young men ripped from their homes to serve in distant wars, and villages destroyed by battles that were never theirs. In this cauldron of injustice and despair, the spirit of resistance began to rise. Tensions grew like embers hidden beneath the ash. While nobles feasted in golden halls, peasants died of hunger in the fields. With each new law, with every new tax, the crown created invisible enemies. History was preparing the stage for an inevitable uprising, and the crown, unknowingly, was forging its greatest adversary. The warrior who rose against the crown was not born a hero. His life began in suffering. Son of a ruined peasant, he saw his village burned by royal soldiers. He grew up in pain and silence, but also in observation. He learned to fight, first with sticks, then with blades. Gradually he gathered around him men and women who carried the same wounds: deserting soldiers, starving peasants, even disgraced nobles. They were not merely a group, but a brotherhood united by fury against injustice. They met in dark forests, trained under the light of the moon, and swore to resist until the end. There an army was not born, a legend was. He knew that the weight of the crown was nearly unbeatable, but he did not fight for immediate victory. He fought to prove that courage could still rise in the face of fear. His followers wore no crests, but they had faith in the cause. Day by day the flame of revolt burned stronger, and the last warrior became the spark that would ignite the resistance. And then came the inevitable clash. The crown tolerated no affronts, and the king sent his troops to crush the rebellion. Gleaming armor marched toward the resistance, confident of victory. But when the two worlds collided, the earth trembled. Poorly armed peasants stood against fully armored knights. Arrows cut the sky, swords clashed, and the battlefield became a sea of mud and blood. At the heart of the battle stood the last warrior. Every blow he struck was a cry against tyranny, every wound a testament to his resolve. For a few hours it seemed the crown wavered in the face of the courage of common men. The thunder of war drums blended with the clang of steel, creating a deadly symphony. The scent of iron and wet earth filled the air, and every step was carved in pain. There, in the chaos of battle, humanity revealed its most brutal face. Surrounded by screams and blood, the warrior became a living symbol that freedom is worth every sacrifice. But no fire resists forever when surrounded by storm. Little by little, the might of royal power crushed the resistance. Comrades fell one by one, and the warrior, exhausted and bloodied, was surrounded. Even so, he did not surrender. He fought to his last breath, until his sword was torn from his hands. Captured, he was brought before the king not as a prisoner, but as a trophy. His execution was planned as a spectacle, so all would see the price of defying the throne. Yet instead of fear, the people saw dignity in his fall, and though the crown had triumphed, it never managed to erase the impact of his courage. The silence after his capture was not one of submission, but of mourning. Each tear shed in the villages became a seed of resistance. His death did not extinguish the flame. It only scattered the embers. The king had won the battlefield, but lost the heart of his people. The last warrior who faced the crown did not survive, but his story crossed the centuries. In taverns, songs were sung of his bravery. In villages, his name was whispered as a sign of hope. He became a symbol that even in the face of absolute power, the voice of freedom cannot be silenced. His life was consumed by the darkness of the crown, but his memory illuminated generations. For history shows us that there will always be someone willing to raise the sword against injustice. And the question that still echoes today is simple and terrifying. When tyranny rises again, who will be the next warrior to face the crown? In every generation, that memory returns as both warning and inspiration. Power may crush bodies, but it never destroys ideas. The last warrior became more than a man. He became an eternal flame in the imagination of all who refused to kneel. His courage does not belong only to the past, it speaks to the present, reminding us that there is always room to resist.